And I met Deb at one of her gatherings. A mutual friend of ours put us together and says, you've got to meet this woman. So she throws one of these little parties, this community gatherings at her space called a Soul Jam. And I just had to show up just to see what this is all about. Because after, I had a chance to meet Deb, and we found out that we had traversed the same patterns of journey in life, meeting some of the same people, doing some of the same work, making a huge difference in the world. So it's like very, very exciting. So I couldn't wait to get in, be in the same room with her. And so Soul Jam was that space, and she brought us all together. And so I invited her in tonight to be with us, so to bring us all together in a bit of a virtual Soul Jam, if you will, where we get to hear what's in your heart and what you now see is possible for us as humans, possible for us as belonging, and how do we connect across these platforms and technology. So welcome, Deb. How you doing tonight?
I'm great. I am great. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on. And boy, that first conversation was so powerful. You kind of messed up my eye makeup a little bit, but I tried to get it together.
Hi, Deb. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
So what about this business about staying connected to others as we shelter in place, stay home, and try to get through this universal experience that we're all going through? What are you seeing about that? What insights have emerged in your stay home experience, and how's that changed the work that you're doing?
Well, it's really interesting. The soul jams that you referred to, Marcus, they actually came out of my own soul's longing for something. I live here in Chicago. It's a big city. We're surrounded by people, but I myself felt like, my husband and I, that's awesome. And I craved more connection with other human beings, and not just being around people, but real connection. Yeah. And so the soul jams actually came as an experiment, like a desire to bring people together and see, okay, how can we get past kind of traditional small talk and have that kind of delicious conversation that has everybody feel more alive. So that's how that started. And once I got into it, I started doing a little research, because I was a journalist in a past life. So I'm a research geek, right? So I started doing some research on this whole loneliness thing, and I learned, how did I not know that there's actually an epidemic of loneliness in the world, documented, and that it's also a health hazard, right? Sure, it's more of a health hazard than smoking, or it's about the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day to our health.
Wow.
Yeah, which I was shocked by. So, fast forward, along comes this thing called a pandemic, right? And all of a sudden, it's like a topic of converse. Like, we are all feeling very acutely this sense of isolation in different ways. Yeah. And so what I've been thinking about and talking to people about is the fact that, just because we can't leave or choose not to leave our home doesn't mean we can't be transported. And what's transporting to us in the human spirit is when we have a really juicy conversation with another human being. And so, everybody's zooming all the time, right? And this very show is testament to the fact that a Zoom conversation can be every bit as impactful and soul touching as an in-person conversation. And it's a function of the conversation. And it's a function of the questions that we ask each other, and the leaning in and the curiosity versus physical proximity. I mean, I'm as big on physical proximity as anybody, but nobody can tell me that conversation you had just a minute ago was not a rich conversation.
Yeah.
Right? So I think as we all get on Zoom calls with coworkers and family members, I think what has them feel a little lacking is that we don't bring curiosity to the Zoom call. Like, it's more about, oh yeah, there you are. I've missed you. How are you doing? Right. But we don't, it makes such a difference if we come to that interaction, whether it's virtual or in person, with a sense of curiosity. Like, I want to discover something about you I've never known before. I want to hear something about your experience of life that I had no idea about. And when that happens, all of a sudden, the format and the medium become less relevant. And what's really important is the co-created discovery process between human beings.
So it's the curiosity and discovering something new that brings about that level of intimacy and connection that allows you to have that deeper experience, even in a virtual space. So I want to make sure we actually get some people who are in the Zoom room actually interacting with you in some way. So I want to see the thing with a question. And that's a question I'll ask you to generate as you sit there listening to me talk for a moment. Because I'd love for you to ask a simple Soul Jam-esque question that's easily answered in an environment like this one, that would allow us to connect to one or two of the participants at a level that ordinarily you wouldn't get in a so-called webinar, and that'll be an opportunity to engage Nicole and Anthony in the dialogue with us. So we spend the next several minutes engaging that question. So I wonder if something's come to mind.
Well, I just happen to have my Soul Jam cards that I've gotten all fancy since the last one you attended. I got cards printed up just in time for the pandemic, right?
Right.
So this is my first chance to actually use these. So I'm going to pick a card, all right?
Anyone will do.
All right, so here's one. What's a talent of yours you've been ignoring?
Ooh.
Right? What's a talent of yours you've been ignoring? See, how often do you get asked that?
I was going to say being quiet, but it's not a.
Not quite a talent yet. Not quite a home talent yet. Okay. That's a very good question. I wonder if somebody's out there in the audience that wants to come on and deal with that. So for you folks monitoring could watch that for us. And I wonder what talent that Nicole has been neglecting or setting aside.
I'm a very good cook. And cooking brings me joy, but I find that I really only enjoy cooking for other people. So when it comes to, when it comes to just like making meals for me, I make them okay, but I'm just like, but like, if I really spent more time in the kitchen and really even baked more, which is something I also ignore, my goodness. That is such a fabulous question.
Well, I'm gonna follow up on that with a little something. I do a program called Soul Care, and what I would say to you is, what if you were to treat yourself as a guest of honor in your own life? Right? Right.
You're gonna make me shake my hair right off. Yes.
What would that look like?
Let's see.
How would your experience of a meal be different if you treated yourself like someone you loved and adored and who deserved some radical self-reverence?
I mean, that does bring me close to the question I wanted to ask, if that's all right.
Yeah, go.
I'm looking at your beautiful environment. It's just like, okay, but
it's like the Pillow Palace, right?
Oh, it's the Pillow Palace, and then you've got the, you know what I'm saying, you got the plants over there going and popping. Everything is just beautiful. So I guess my question is, thank you. my question for you is, I guess, how do we create or reimagine our environments?
Ooh.
You know?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So actually, my calling in life overall is that people experience beauty, and not just beauty as in the typical sense of aesthetic beauty, but beauty as in exaltation of the spirit. So in terms of environments, I'm so glad you asked this, because I am all about creating an environment. And this goes back to what I said a second ago about being the guest of honor in your own life, right? What if you looked at creating an environment, not in terms of, oh, what looks good and what color is everybody doing this year, but in terms of what exalts your spirit? What makes you feel awesome? What makes you feel like your best, highest self? What brings out your creativity? And so my style has morphed over the years. And the last couple years, I've gone all kind of boho jungalo, and that's what does it for me. And Chris likes it too, so we're good, you know. And I think, you know, we're all meant to evolve and change, and we get stuck with furniture and art and stuff that was from some former self, and we forget, oh, you know, it's not just about, quote, redecorating. It's about having your environment call you to be, and call you to be as the person you are now and the person you're evolving into versus who you were 10 years ago.
Yeah, got it. Beautiful,
So
beautiful.
what do you, I mean, so what do you, something's going on over there. I can see light bulbs going off. Like,
well, I was writing down some of what you were saying, but I really do love be the guest of honor of your own life. I think that during this shelter-in time, we're all learning some stuff about ourselves. And I think what I'm trying to embrace is perhaps no apology for wanting to create an environment that is nutritious to my soul. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I think what I'm going through is, hey, it's okay to have 87 million pillows on your bed right now. If that is the thing that is making you feel safe. And I know that that might sound surface or vapid to some, but you know, this is my experience and this is what I'm going through. But I find myself wanting to be more present with me. Whereas I think I was used to just kind of running around. Okay, I'm gonna put out that fire. Okay, I'm gonna solve that problem. Okay, I'm gonna write that poem and it's gonna be great and we're all gonna be fine. And yeah. And now it's like, hey, you gotta go make breakfast. And that in recent weeks, it's felt like a great challenge. And shout out to, lovingly shouting out to people that are experiencing food insecurity and folks that don't have options. Do whatever you can to help somebody else. You feel me? So this is, make no mistake, this is not me saying I want some 5-star luxurious lifestyle. I'm not even talking about that. But I want to work harder at getting out of a life of survival versus be your own guest of honor. So that's what you see me over here. That's what you're witnessing.
I love that.
So I'm not seeing a bunch of little messages come to me like I want to get in. So I'm going to let my man Anthony have the last question, and I'll just wait and be surprised at what he says and how you respond.
I'll just come right after you, Marcus, first, and just confirm with Deb when you met Marcus Robinson, were you like, this is the Soul Jam poster boy? I mean, you know, that was his nickname in 8th grade. That's what they used to call him, Soul Jam Robinson. I mean, it's Michael Jordan is Space Jam and Marcus Robinson is Soul Jam. It's so great to meet you, and I totally get why you two connect with each other. I wanted to reflect something that you inspired in me, Deb, and take it from there, you know, talking about delicious conversations and curiosity. You know, it's something that I forgot, but I'm usually very aware of, is just that this is an opportunity to talk to our elders and get their stories. And you know, we finally have the time to like talk to grandma and ask the questions that we didn't ask. And I wonder if you could reflect on those kind of discussions, one with loved ones and family, about the things that we might that if we don't talk about now, we might miss.
Yeah, that's really great. I read this thing recently that Malcolm Gladwell said that the central problem that most people have is that they don't know how they're interesting. And it really gets clear in conversations with other people, you know. So it's a gift to somebody if you're in a conversation with a family member, an elder, or, you know, let's not forget discovering who our young people are as well, right? Everybody. And so some things that you can keep in mind is we tend to, out of habit, ask questions about what happened and when did this happen, and it becomes kind of a timeline or, you know, a report. And the way into the really juicy stuff, the home cooked meal of conversation versus the fast food conversation, is to ask about the person's experience. Like, what was that like for you? Or if they say something and you sense there's some interesting juicy gold behind that, to slow the conversation down and say, hold up, wait a second, tell me more about that. And what was that like? And what were you thinking about at that time? And what would you, like the question that was asked earlier of Sam, you know, what would you go back and tell your young self if you could? I mean, that's a great question to ask anybody, really.
Well, Deb, what would you tell your 23-year-old self?
Wow. Like, don't worry about picking the right thing to do, because you're going to do a lot of different things. Like, just don't sweat it. Just go with the current passion and run with it, because there's going to be another one that you're going to pick up on the way.
That's so amazing. So your life sounds a lot like mine. So and it's just so many different ways. So I'm very, very excited. Thank you so much for blessing us with some time this evening and sharing the wisdom and insight. You know, definitely gonna be become a student of questions as opposed to a
Thank you.
professor of answers. You know.